All right, here we go. This is the actual episode 1 of model number 26, the 2500 scale set of the 3 enterprises, the TOS Enterprise, the Motion Picture Enterprise, although as you'll see I built this one with the Enterprise A, and the Enterprise B. Now, I had done videos of these 3 back in July of 2021, but what I forgot is that I took a bunch of pictures while I started the build in December of 2020, just before I deployed. So this narrated slideshow will be the true episode 1 of model number 26, instead of joining it in progress. But that does make this model number 26 the transition build, the last one with narrated picture slideshow. Well, that's not quite true. But the only reason models number 27 through 30 were narrated picture slideshows is because I wasn't sure they were going to be posted yet. And I'd already done a video on them before I realized I had to go back and film stuff. But you can see here the refit. You saw the TOS Enterprise in the previous build and how I had expanded myself to the dining room table, because most of the space on the model building table was taken up with the 537 scale Enterprise A. So there's the Enterprise B saucer there. I think there's better light in a moment. Yeah, there's the better light. And this is being recorded on my new Samsung Galaxy S25 FE, because after 6 years the final screen film failed on my Galaxy 9, so I'm turning to this one. And you can see here the 2500 scale Aqua decals that I'm saving for a later version of the Enterprise B, because this one was given the blue ones to match the 24th century look of the one that showed up in DS9, I guess. Now, you see how I'm painting the stuff on the sprue like the deflector dish? And it's hard to tell what that is from such a great distance. But here are the components of the TOS Enterprise, all painted and ready for assembly. Wanted to make sure. And there are the TOS Enterprise 2500 scale decals. Pinstripes and the registry number and the stuff that goes under the engineering hull. And yes, don't worry, I fixed those nacelles so they wouldn't be crooked. You'll see that in the next few pictures. And used a Tamiya. That's a tester's gray I used there. So there's the front view. And those are about the 4 paints I used to touch up the ship. See, the nacelles are straight and level now. And okay, now we're getting into a picture from right next to the Star Destroyer, but that's not the same scale. The Star Destroyer was 4000 scale. And here we go with the Enterprise B, of course. So it's getting its white base coat, having got a white primer earlier. And there's the refit, which is going to become the Enterprise A. So you had to do a bit of detail painting. There it is on the stand, with the nacelles getting some detail like the copper. And I think it's the black along the trench. So the interesting thing is, even in 2500 scale, even though it's an AMT model, the nacelles aligned much better than they do on the 537, because they had slots and tabs, just like the 350. And there they are side by side. Now, there's no decals yet. That doesn't come until what's now going to be episode 2. Well, I guess I had to spray the bottom of the ship, didn't I? And it's hard to tell what that is. Some of these pictures were not zoomed in right. Oh, there we go. Enterprise B components. There's the TOS Enterprise beside it. And there is the Enterprise B right next to the Aztec pattern layout on the instructions. There's the TOS Enterprise with the stand masked off. Maybe it was getting its clear coat? No, it's being sprayed again. Oh, I know why. Because you discovered a better. You lightened it with the Tamiya Royal Light Gray. That's it. You see how this goes on in one piece? Well, I cut it up into several pieces, but first I field tested it. Kind of a dry fit. And yeah, that's from the instructions too. You see the blue trim? That's for the Enterprise A. And you can see the instructions here of how you place the decals on. So I sourced extra decals from Federation models and other sites, so I can make this as the Enterprise A. You can see the faint grid lines because there's none etched into the saucer. You can see the half of the hull, the Aztecs there, applied with phaser decals and RCS thrusters integrated. And then you get into the trim and you get the inner side of the nacelles and everything. So now I started applying the decals to the bottom of the ship. And this is pretty well how the ship, well, the Enterprise A ended up looking just before I deployed. And you can see the bottom of the ship here with everything in place. And the top ship is coming up in a moment. There you go, top of the ship. Now the interesting thing is you're going to get to pictures of the Enterprise TOS again, probably left over from its dark phase. So these pictures might not be in exact order, but according to the timestamp they were. Oh yes, it's much lighter there. It was just the shadows, that's it. But that's a much more accurate color. To me, a royal light gray. And you can compare that to the earlier pictures when it was still darkened. There's the Enterprise A. The decals have settled down now. So that's quite good. The bridge dome didn't have any decals applied to it. They were separate, smaller decal pieces. There you're starting to work on the bottom of the TOS Enterprise. You can see all the instructions of everything laid out. And there are all the parts, all painted, of the 2500 scale Enterprise B. And you start working on the Aztec decals on the top of the secondary hull before you apply the nacelle assembly, because you need to work around it. There's the deflector dish, colored blue. There's the gunmetal gray on the neck. Now remember, this was before I built the Excelsior. Consider this Enterprise B a field test for building the Excelsior and getting the colors right. Those are the Aqua trim that I'm going to use later, but I used the nacelle trench decals at this time. And what is that? Well, that looks like the Enterprise A stuff. That can't be right. I already put it in place. I guess it's extra. Because, you know, when it came to the 2500 scale, because you're working at such a small scale, I decided it was best to source extra decals, just in case. So you got the phasers, you got the emergency hatches, and you've got the RCS thrusters. Plus that little blue thing that goes in front of the impulse reactor, which might be a bolt cover or something. And yes, it's my habit to take pictures from all four angles of these things, because at the time, that's what I did. I didn't think of really taking videos until later. So, ended up taking pictures instead. And still working on the dining room table, as you can see here. Alright, so that is the Aqua Enterprise B ring and nacelle decals. Here is the blue ring, the one for the 24th century, and that's what I'm using. Gizmotron, I believe they were called. And so you see them all laid out. They're sprayed with the tester's decal bonder spray to make sure they won't fall apart. Here's the lower ring applied to the Enterprise B. And here are the two silver paints I use for touch-up. So that is episode 1 of the 3-ship Enterprise set. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.